Greetings, let's talk about Goalbook. Today we're going to get a brief overview of how to use Goalbook. So we'll start here. Goalbook is a tool that you can use in service of supporting students who are learning differently or may need additional support from the rest of the class. You can use strategies here for RTI, for students who have an IEP, for students who are receiving maybe one-on-one services in both behavior or non-academic and academic RTI. So we're going to first start out with Goalbook Pathways. Now you can go into Goalbook Pathways. You always start here, and you can choose Pathways or Toolkit. The difference is that Pathways is really a support based on customizing any resources for your students. And this can be for a whole class. It can be for the groups of students that I named in special populations. But the key is that it's really focused on a specific skill or area that students need additional support in. So let's say I'm looking at first grade, I'm in the ELA tab, and I want to support my students with phonics and decoding. So I'll just click on that. I'll get some resources for that. It names the specific Common Core standard that students will be working on. So let's just look in here and see. It gives details about the standard, allows you to unpack the standard, but it also gives some tasks that are in service of developing the standard. It breaks it down so that each of these things, there's resources aligned with those parts of the standard. So this is the overall standard. I want students to be able to know and apply grade level phonics and word analysis skills in decoding words. So in order to do that, they should be able to do all of these things. If you are assessing your student and you notice that they're able to do some but not all, you can, of these listed things, you can unpack this standard and be able to just see what are the key things that students should be able to do in service of that. It also talks about how it's related to other first grade standards. I believe it also breaks down how it's related, yes, to lower grades. So you'll see how it's connected to kindergarten as well. And if you were to do this in fourth grade or an older grade, you would see how it's related to third and second grade, for example. And then it does the same in the opposite direction of how it's related to other standards. And this is very useful because you want to know not only where your students are, but where they should be in the next 2 to 3 years. And this breakdown allows you to see that in real time. So we're going to close out of here. We know what it looks like for us to unpack the standards. Now I'm just going to choose a task that aligns to what I know my students need. So right now they're still struggling with decoding one-syllable words. I'm going to choose a task that makes sense for my students. Now this is where you can get into universal design for learning, and you can say, okay, what task is best? But also you'll see here that these are aligned to the depth of knowledge that students should be able to interact with the task with. So this one is the easiest access point. And so in Bloom's taxonomy, it would be remembering. And so they're using the multiple choice as a modality for students to remember and identify the one word syllable that is not a part of the at family, for example. In this one, they will be sorting and they will be understanding and applying using Bloom's taxonomy. And they're sorting the words that are belonging to or in the at or it family. And then with this one, they are using annotation. So they're analyzing and evaluating and deciding within a passage which words are part of the at or it family. So based on your students' access point, you would choose one of these tasks, typically probably starting at the easiest access so that you can just build on within that task. So I'm just going to click on this one. Here is the task. You can view the full item. You can heart it, and that means you add it to your favorites, or you can add it to a collection. If we were in the building, you would be able to print it, and now they have an option where you can present it because you are, we're doing remote learning, and so you will be able to present that to the student. So you have the option to hide the answer if you are presenting it, and let's just view the full item. And so it names the depth of rigor, as I already stated, it names the answer. And as you create or as you support students with this, you can talk them through what is the right answer, what is not the right answer, and use this to support your interactions with students virtually. So I'm going to go back so that we can see just one more example within decoding words. Actually, I'll go into a math and I'll choose a higher grade. We'll go to 4th grade. And my students are struggling or could benefit from support in fractions. Yay, fractions, our favorite. So I'm going to choose fractions as sums of unit fractions. Here is the standard. Here is the unpacking of the standard. And here are some details that I know my students could benefit from a little bit more practice with. Oh yes, subtraction with like denominators. So let's go into that. They have the 3 levels of depth of knowledge. They have the different modalities that students could interact with it, and each one has the standard that it's aligned to. Here, if I want to present it, I can print it if I have access, and I can add it to my favorites or my collection. I can also view the full item, get a little bit more details, and support my student with understanding why the answer is what it is based on their response. So that is Goalbook Pathways. If you weren't looking for specifically ELA or math, you could also just browse strategies. So you could go into strategies at the top, strategy wizard. I need strategies for, let's go into behavior and SEL. That's the area we haven't talked about. And so this will be in your non-academic RTI meeting. So right now my student could benefit from more support with social awareness, and my student is in grade K-2. So you'll notice that they group the grades here. They are not individualized, and this is because when you're thinking of non-academic RTI or supports, it's not necessarily state standards. It's more about the age range or the developmental area that the student is in. That's not the right wording, but I hope you get my drift. So let's just go to K-2, find strategies, and boom, we have some different ones. I'm going to choose anger trigger analysis. It's loading. And here are some strategies. So I want to do a calming strategy. And I have I want to do a calming strategy for some reason. Okay. Here we go. So it gives a bunch of different downloads that you can utilize. So it's a total of 4 for this particular strategy. You can download them, you can add them to collection. Once they're downloaded, I believe you can download it in PDF or Word file. So if you download it in a Word file, you'll be able to adjust it based on your students. So if this one, let's look at the preview, it says, my calming space activities are listen to music, bubbles, relax, and putty and clay. You can adjust these images so that students are getting the things that they need based on their desires. They also give some tips to implement this strategy, different examples, as well as other related strategies. I really wanted to go to calming strategies, but that wasn't working. So you can kind of understand that. Again, I did mention at the beginning UDL, and this on both Pathways and Toolkit, you have information about UDL. UDL is Universal Design for Learning. And here are the guidelines. There are 3 major areas. It talks about the why, the what, and the how. and if students are benefiting from additional strategies in why, what, and how, this gives hundreds of strategies that can be in support of students based on their area of additional support. So I hope that was helpful in helping you to access and understand Goalbook Pathways. There's so much more, but this is a very brief overview. Thank you.